YouTube. And we should be live for the Monday, January 18th live stream. As always, I am Alex Kozora. Joining me is Dave Bryan. So once I get this thing pulled up here on YouTube, which is giving me some fits, we'll get started here with the live chat. Dave, how you doing?
Doing good. Happy, what day is it? Monday. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Yeah, we'll get started here in the chat. Just a half hour tonight. Just things are a little busy right now, as you guys probably know. I just completed or in the middle of, but close to completing a move, and so just with a little hectic time, I did want to just keep this a little bit shorter tonight. But I wanted to have a live stream with you guys to at least talk about some of the big happenings that have been going on over the past week or so. So we will jump right in. Keith asking this about an hour ago. Says, hey, Alex and Dave, since the Steelers are so keen on using inside linebackers to cover slot receivers, do you think it would be a good idea for them to go after a mobile inside linebacker and play with two middle linebackers? I don't know if this is well, it wouldn't be a pretense to a 4-3 kind of question, but obviously getting Devin Bush back will help. But I just think overall there's got to be better solution to defending, empty at a heavy personnel than the way Pittsburgh's done it over the last 2 to 3 seasons. That's my
Yeah,
view of
there's
it.
got to be there's got to be, and I guess really the overarching question was, should they address the position in the draft, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it probably wouldn't be an awful idea. you know, look, Avery Williamson, I think we both agree there's a good chance that he's going to be gone. If Avery Williamson does return, it's probably going to be for the minimum, and I just don't see that happening. He'll probably get a better deal somewhere else there. Vince Williams, that's good. That's going to be one to watch. I think somewhere around the neighborhood of a $4 million salary in 2021, and yeah, not a spring chicken anymore. Obviously, you should have Robert Spillane back on a 1 year exclusive rights tender, so you should have him back. And then what's going on, with Ulysses Gilbert III, even if he does make it back, and not a great sign for him so far in his first couple seasons due to the old injury bug and all. So then Marcus Allen's not really an inside linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
More of a nickel backer, if you will, there. So probably not a bad idea to maybe scout a few inside linebackers at some point during this year's draft.
Definitely could be on the table for sure. Just a quick check here with the chats. One commenter said Dave's mic might be acting up. It's probably on my end potentially, but that was only one comment. So did Dave sound okay there? Was there any connection type issues? If chat, you could let me know. That would be appreciated. It sounds good on my end, but I don't know how it's coming through on the actual YouTube stream.
Is
Um,
everybody hearing me okay?
Yeah, I hear you okay,
Hello.
but I am on Wi-Fi right now, so that may be having some sort of issue. We can get some people in the chat to comment on that, and while we wait for that, Mark Leslie says, "Congrats on the new house, Alex." Thank you, Mark. With the likes of Big
You
Ben.
got something going on. I sound like Darth Vader, so it's got to be something on your end or
Okay.
something there, Alex.
Yeah, it's probably just the connection. Says it's not terrible though, so maybe we'll push through it this time and then fix things for next Monday stream. Because I'll have to go to a different room to get my Ethernet cable plugged in and hooked up that way. We'll
Did you
persevere.
turn off? Normally in the past, you've had to turn something off or on or
Mm,
something that has changed this. Do you remember what that setting is? Or
well, it seems to change on me. I can try something though and see if that'll fix it. This will either work or we won't be able to hear you at all. So go ahead and give me a quick test, Dave.
testing 1 1 1 2 3. Hello, hello. Testing. Does that sound better? Can anybody hear me? Do I sound non-robotic now? Testing 1 2 3.
All right. Did you hear Dave's test? He was doing a test 1 2 3. Either you heard it fine or you didn't hear it at all. Xander says it sounds good. Touch nothing perfect. Okay, I don't understand OBS. It's with this desktop audio setting. Sometimes if I turn it on, it creates that robotic issue. If I turn it off, sometimes Dave's muted. So okay, that's good to know. That's fine then. All right, moving on right ahead here with Mark's question. With the likes of Big Ben, Brady, and Breeze all being out of the league next few years, who is current elite level quarterbacks? Let's also say don't include Rodgers. I think obviously Patrick Mahomes at the top of that list. I think Russell Wilson's up there. I know we both are big fans of Deshaun Watson, but I think obviously Mahomes is in a tier one all by himself.
Yeah, did we mention Josh Allen in there? I think he's here, kind of here to stay right now. Just look at the teams in the playoffs. Obviously, the Saints are going to have something else different going on over there now. But yeah, I mean, you obviously can't have a conversation without having Patrick Mahomes up there. Uh, Brady's going to have, as long as Brady plays, you got to figure he's going to have him in the playoffs. We'll see what happens with Philip Rivers. Kind of sounds like he might be done on top of it. So yeah, I mean it's the haves and the have-nots right now, and obviously you probably wouldn't put Roethlisberger in that upper
Yeah.
five right now.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of elite level, I would say that list is very short to begin with. One to two, maybe stretching at three guys. And Ben, as much as I'm a fan of Ben, is not. I don't know if Ben's ever been at that elite top three level, and he certainly is not right now.
And I'm not sure you put Russell Wilson up there. You're right
Maybe
yet.
not.
And
Yeah,
Russell had his struggles, and
yeah.
that's something I think we highlighted going all the way back into the middle of the season, talking about him, and specifically, I think it was the third down adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat on him. So interesting to see what they do quarterback or coordinator wise. They're in Seattle. Look, the guy still has leg. He still can take off with the football. Still has the arm, but I'm not sure you would consider him elite. Maybe
Hmm.
that next tier
Right.
tier after that then.
I think in terms of elite, and hopefully I'm not forgetting an obvious name here. Tier one is Mahomes. Tier two is Rogers and Watson, and I think that's it for me in terms of quarterbacks I would define as elite present day. It's a very short list because I think that term gets overused sometimes, and I think you got to keep that
Hmm.
quarterback elite list super short. Mike
Right.
Adesso says, "Hi guys, happy chat Monday. If Banner is re-signed, do you really see tackle as a first round need? I still think tight end is the more pressing need, but we all know that's not happening. Yeah, I think Banner has a good chance to come back on a 1 year minimum type deal coming off the torn ACL, but I don't think you can put your confidence in his recovery. Well, that's his recovery, but just what you know about him and at left tackle, a lot of unknowns, even more unknowns there. So I think Banner's going to be good depth, a known guy to a higher degree than a rookie, obviously, but I don't think it changes your draft needle in need really one bit.
We've seen Kevin Colbert in the past kind of semi-patch some of these holes, to not paint himself into a corner where he has to take a certain position. That said, I think, Alex, you and I would be surprised if they don't draft a tackle within the first 3 rounds of this draft, right?
Yes, especially if they have two third round comp picks or two third round picks, one
Right.
of them being a comp pick.
Right. So, not necessarily does it have to be. Can it be first rounder? Yeah, it certainly can be. Does it
Hmm.
have to be? No, absolutely not. And I think by the time we get closer to the draft, we'll kind of have, well, they sort of filled this hole here to kind of
Hmm.
left them left themselves open to potentially drafting this position, and then that's usually the way Kevin Colbert enters these drafts here.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I fully expect Zach Banner to be re-signed, whether or not that's a 1 year deal or a 2 year deal. It really makes sense for both parties to get that done sooner rather than later. So I would think before March 17th rolls around, Banner will have a new deal in place.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Just as a reminder, since we are a little bit shorter on time today, going just to the bottom of the hour, if you want to have a guarantee of your question being asked and answered by Dave and myself, you can send us a super chat and we will get to that question as soon as possible. Mr. Lynn says, "Hey Alex, love the content, bro. Thank you very much. Gonna be a long, sad off season. It is, but hopefully the Pens will exceed expectations. Hopefully, because the Pirates sure aren't. They just traded Joe Musgrove. Anyways, what are the chances Ben and Pouncey retires? Ben, I think it's a very, very slim chance he retires. I'm pretty confident he'll be back in 2021. That's kind of what he said. What the team has hinted at and what the reporting recently over the weekend has been. Pouncey up in the air. I still think Pouncey, I know the initial report or rumor, it really wasn't a report, was that Pouncey's going to retire. I think there's a chance he comes back in 2021, but I think he has a much greater chance to retire than Ben.
I have a feeling Ben's going to twist his arm to get him
Hmm.
to come back,
Just like
and
Bettis in
because
04, 05.
right, just I think those two are kind of. Does Ben really want to break in a new center right now? And
Mm.
that new center is not J.C. Hassenauer
It's going
either.
to
At
be
least
some
we hope
rookie.
it's not. Not. And I know you. I think one of your first draft profiles, right, Alex, is going to be the Alabama center
Hmm.
there as well too. So look, even though they could address that position and probably probably should at some point, I'm with you. I still, until Marquise Pouncey tells us he's not coming back, I think there's a chance that he's going to come back, and I think, yeah, I think Roethlisberger probably twists his arm pretty good to get him to come back too. So we'll definitely find out here probably by the time March 17th rolls around. You would think, because you would think they would want Marquise Pouncey's decision, a couple of weeks before that. So probably by about March 1st, we'll probably have more of an idea of whether or not Pouncey's coming back or not. And I would lean to thinking that he probably will.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning. I'm just looking at the article up on Steelers Depot. We got to get more photos of Matt Canada if he's going to be the OC. This is not a
That's
very
angry.
flattering.
That's
Yeah.
angry, Matt Canada.
It's hard to have this if the report is true that Canada is your next OC and this is going to be the header photo we're going to use. So we're going to have to find something else. Yeah, with retirement, obviously emotions are super raw as the season ends and as players kind of get away from the game, their bodies feel a little bit better. I heard a rumor last year that one current Steeler was going to retire after the 2019 season didn't happen. And so I think sometimes when you get away from things, you step back, your body feels better. You kind of reevaluate those things because the retirement is such a big step that some players can't take or think about taking and then change their mind as the offseason goes along. So we'll see. Steeler fan 1933. Thank you. Good to hear from you. Sends a super chat, says, "Thank you, Alex and Dave, for keeping us informed all year round. Your work is appreciated and does not go unnoticed." Here we go, Steelers. Very kind of you to say thank you very much, Steeler fan, for the super chat.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Let's see here. ODG Dorkman says, "I have a hard time seeing how the Steelers can be better next year. You and me both. Is the goal to win the Super Bowl realistic next year? Missing Dave T." Yeah, missed Dave T as well. Mike Adesso has a similar comment, and I think it's much harder to find a path to win a Super Bowl. I still think it's theoretically possible because you have Ben. But Dave, we knew this from this before this season began that 2020 was going to be the year to do it if they were going to do it, and of course fell massively shy of that mark.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's hard to imagine from where we sit right now that the 2021 team will have as good a chance of winning it all as the 2020 team did. Obviously, there's going to be quite a you're going to have turnover again. You would think you're going to lose some pieces of this defense through free agency attrition on top of it, but you know what they say: if you have a franchise quarterback and a above average defense, you're probably going to have as good a shot of any. Now the problem is competition in the AFC North has gotten obviously better. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen are here to stay. You got that. You just overall, they're just not going to have as good of a chance to win it all. I wouldn't think. I would imagine that their opening odds that the betting public will kind of view them in that, I don't know, 40 to 1 range.
Hmm.
I would think that that would be the proper line to kind of open them up at after the Super Bowl. Here we'll definitely see here in a couple more weeks here what the betting public thinks. And yeah, Dave T, man, that hurt. That really
Hmm.
hurt this year.
Yeah.
Going all the way back with him as many years as we've had him on the show and all, and never met the man face to face, obviously, but I certainly felt like I knew him. And boy, the amount of information he would send us, and the way he talked to Alex and I, and of
Hmm.
course David Todd when he was on, just what a great friend, what a great loss overall to the pre-draft world. So yeah, we'll be thinking about Dave T a lot this offseason.
Absolutely. His information, his generosity, I think we're second to none. Wes Hickok says, "Any chance Ben takes a pay cut to keep Juju?" No, not going to take a pay cut. There could
No.
be an extension that'll lower that cap hit number, but there won't be an actual pay cut from Ben. Mike Adesso would ask a question: does having no combine really matter at the end of the day? Still having pro days, Zoom interviews, medicals done. Seems the pro day was outdated anyways. I don't know. I get some of this stuff is antiquated for the NFL, but man, that value of just that centralized location, easy medical testing, standardized testing for workouts was really helpful. So, and I've been told that even for pro days, that basically no NFL personnel will be in attendance for those pro days unless maybe they're really local pro days. So it's not like, and this is unfortunate if true, that Tomlin and Colbert will actually be able to physically attend these pro days this winter, which will be even more difficult to navigate.
What a pile of a bunk.
Yeah, really sucks.
I just thinking back, I was telling my wife when that news broke a couple hours ago there that, man, I've been following and documenting the combine in real time since what, like 2009,
Hmm.
man. What a change this will be for me. Last year was bad enough not having to, not really having a pro day circuit and all the kind of the blues clues that you and I like to play during the off season here. And now they're going to take the combine away from us on top of it. So really a sad day for me overall, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's going to be another difficult draft season and probably even a more challenging draft season for us and for teams than last year because there'll actually be less information this year than there was, in 2020 at the start of the pandemic. Mutated Genome says, can Nelson's and Hayden's contracts be restructured to free up some cash? I believe the answer to that is no because they're going into the last year of their deal. But what is your take on that, Dave?
The only way you're going to lower the cap hits on Steven Nelson or Joe Hayden is to get them to take a pay cut, which that's not going to happen, or you give them an extension, which will cost you. They're not going to just do an extension and not get new money
Hmm.
and a higher new money average out of it. So, do you want to pay those guys more new money and extend them a couple, 2 or 3 years, knowing good and well that there's probably a good chance that neither one of them will see the end of that contract, and that you'll essentially probably be overpaying them to some degree? Maybe on Nelson, but you definitely, if you did that to Hayden, be prepared to have some dead money maybe as soon as 2022. Here's the thing: don't look at the cap numbers. Look at what you're paying them as far as salary goes and what it would cost to replace those guys. Look, Joe Hayden's making $7 million. Okay, yeah, Joe Hayden's up there in age. Are you really going to be able to find a good replacement by freeing up that $7 million overall? Probably not. So it's in probably your best interest to hold on to Hayden and let him play out his final year of the contract, and probably the same thing with Steven Nelson. Although I could potentially maybe see an extension with Steven Nelson, but are you going to pay him a new money average more than Joe Hayden's now? And how would Joe Hayden feel about that? That just doesn't sound like something that the
Hmm.
Steelers do. So unless those two guys are willing to take a pay cut, which uh, spoiler, they're not. Uh, then I think you just let them ride with what they have right now.
So no path to restructure, correct? Because their 2021 is the last year of their contracts. There is no
I,
can to kick.
Right. There is no restructure can. The only candidates that you have to restructure to lower the cap hits this
Hmm.
year, and two of them I wrote about. You might want to pull that
Yeah, I'll pull it
article
up
up.
now.
Cameron Hayward and Stephon Tuitt are two obvious ones that'll probably happen between now and March 17th. Really, the only other one that you have to save really any kind of cap space and is Chris Boswell. Do you really want to do a full restructure on him to save a little over $1 million? They might have to, because they might be in that
Hmm.
much of a cap crunch here. But other than that, Hayden and Nelson, I do not believe are under contract past this year.
Correct. Yep. So no way to restructure that. Yeah, that was a question that Mango Masher had about other players whose deals are most likely to be restructured. Hayward, to its contracts, really the two obvious ones that almost certainly will be restructured. You can check out that article Dave wrote up on Steelers Depot. Let's see. John Pennington says, David and Alex, great job this season. Thank you, John. If Canada is the new OC, do you think it's time to find a mobile quarterback to bring this team into the 21, I assume the 2021 season? I don't know if this will be the year they draft a quarterback, but I'll say this, John. When they do draft a quarterback, he will have to have some level of mobility because of the way the league is going. If Canada is still your OC, that's where his offense is going to work best. And so I think it's really hard to have a quarterback in today's NFL that does not really have any amount of mobility, especially a young guy that can use that mobility to kind of figure things out when plays break down, early in his career.
If Ben comes back in 2021, which it certainly does seem to be trending that way,
Hmm.
I mean, it's hard to imagine this team drafting a quarterback in the first and second round. You
Right.
know,
Agreed.
especially if you think that you're gonna want to have a chance to compete in 2021. And then obviously the onus comes in 2022 would be the year to potentially draft a quarterback. And look, you might have a lot of draft capital depending on how this free agency works with the compensatory draft pick value and all like that. Maybe you get a lot of draft capital for 2022 that allows you maybe to move up however far you might need to move up in the first round to potentially draft that next franchise quarterback. So, and I believe I've said this for quite some time, Alex, that I don't expect this team to draft a quarterback in 2021. Does that mean that it's unthinkable? No, absolutely not. But if Ben comes back and look, there's going to be a lot of holes for this team to fill in this draft. I you can still draft one fourth, fifth round quarterback and see maybe what you can get out of the fish
Hmm.
pond there. And at worst, maybe you get a number, a backup or a number three out of it for the next couple of years. But I just can't see this team drafting a quarterback in first or second round, and especially if not if Ben comes back.
Is Dobbs a free agent after this season? Is
Yes,
he
he
pending?
is.
Okay, he's a pending free agent.
He's unrestricted,
Okay.
but you'd have to think you could get him back on a minimum salary, minimum benefit contract if you wanted to.
Hmm.
Whereas you give him the minimum, you give him, let's say, I think the minimum signing bonus with that is it 137,500? I think that's the number this year. So you give him a minimum base salary for his time in the league. You give him that minimum signing bonus, and then you get the benefits of a second year player cap hit plus whatever the signing bonus is. So
Right.
if they really want, we'll find out how bad they want Joshua Dobbs back, and really that's probably a decision that you don't have to make until after the draft,
Hmm.
because I have a hard time imagining Josh Dobbs is going to have a lot of offers running his way.
Yeah, I was just asking because if he was under contract, and if you have your three quarterbacks, I mean, theoretically, your fourth, fifth round pick could beat out Dobbs, but probably not. And I really think overall, Dave, assuming Ben comes back, which is again a safe assumption, it's going to be the same conversation that we had to have 47,000 times last year. Are they going to draft a quarterback? Are they going to sign a veteran? Are they going to get a first round bust? Haskins, Donald, something like that, and ultimately nothing happens. And I think that is still the most likely path this year. Is just the same as last.
We were right the last time, and we'll probably be right this time too.
Yep.
So you would think they'd learn to listen to us, but they don't.
Well, you guys do in the chat, and so we certainly appreciate
Oh,
that.
these guys do.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone else, yeah, everyone else is in the wrong. You guys are in the right. Eric Blose. I don't know how to say it. I apologize. Missed the beginning. What do you think of the Canada hire or Canada the OC? Again, not official yet, but that is the assumption. The phrase we used was threading the needle, trying to rock the boat without tipping it over, trying to have that mix of continuity and in-house guy with hopefully some new age type of offense and having a change and not being so status quo. But as we discussed on the podcast this morning, Dave, how is Canada's offense going to work without a mobile quarterback, with one of the least mobile quarterbacks in football? What will that compromise look like? And will Canada really get to run his offense without having that mobile quarterback? Is going to be, I think, his biggest challenge.
I agree. I mean, if you go back and you look at that tape that we said, we talked on the podcast, but you go back and look at that tape from Pitt and Maryland and a little time at LSU there. If you're going to get the full effect of the Matt Canada offense, you got to have some mobility in there from the quarterback position to do that, and you don't. So does that just mean more newfangled motions? And yeah, I don't know. It seems like a lot of lipstick to have to put on the pig,
Hmm.
So, uh, I wish they would have went another direction, but I mean, look, we're obviously going to give him a chance to see how much lipstick he can actually use on the pig, if indeed Roethlisberger comes back, and if indeed, and it's important to reemphasize he's not been named offensive coordinator yet.
Right.
I think that's just the initial reports, but until the Steelers say he's the offensive coordinator, he's not the offensive coordinator. And obviously,
Exactly.
we do expect that to happen, but it hasn't happened yet.
Got a couple of questions here about taking a quarterback high in the draft. K. Jackson, Pittsburgh. Derek Dimmy also asked about Trey Lance. If they would move up for Trey Lance, I'm not anticipating that. Again, I'm not going to 100% rule it out, and we'll see what happens with Ben. We'll know more information well before April's draft, but I'm not expecting a quarterback taken in general at 24, let alone them trading up to get one of the top quarterbacks.
Yeah, I obviously don't expect them to trade up to get one. And like I just said the other day, I don't think they're going to draft one if Ben comes back this year.
Burden says, "What are the chances of getting Najee Harris getting picked by us with the 24th pick?" Trying to distill chances and stuff here in mid-January is an impossible, fruitless task, and I don't know how much easier it's going to get even throughout the draft process. There's a chance. I think Dave and I would prefer a more day two running back. Rounds 2 through 4 seems to be more in this team's wheelhouse. but I won't discount it because Harris certainly seems like a really talented back, and that is a position we expect Pittsburgh to address sooner than later in the draft.
Yeah, you would think that they would address it. Look, you know how I am on running backs. I think it's a fungible position, obviously. And I've watched enough of Najee Harris so far during the college football season. They haven't gone really, really deep past his, highlights. And look, he's an attractive back, and you would think if he is that all around back, if he can block, if he can catch out of the backfield, and obviously can run and be a workhorse back. And if he is indeed the top back in this year's class, which it certainly looks like that's going to be the case, I mean, it's too early for me to say definitive because I haven't watched all of them. But if indeed that's the case, then you would think there's a good chance it's going to be off the board by the time the 24th pick rolls around, unless teams are starting to learn their lesson that you
Hmm.
probably shouldn't draft a running back in the first round. So it's one of those catch 22s there, and on top of it, if you just bring in a back and don't address the line, are you really going to expect to see some improvement in
Right.
the running game just because maybe you change out the coaching and all? Personally, I would like to see them address the position rounds 2 through 4, but
Hmm.
uh, you know you can't rule it out. I guess Najee in the first round if he falls to you.
Right, and they generally have been addressing it, 2 through 4. Whether you're talking James Conner or Benny Snell, Jalen Seamless, Anthony McFarland. Granted, the need wasn't maybe as obvious then as it was now when you had Le'Veon Bell, taking Connor. It wasn't that you needed a running back early in that draft, but I still think it's more likely one comes 2 through 4, like you said, then 24. But we'll see what happens. Remac HTC says, Alex, do you think the corner problem could be solved by not signing anyone and picking up Shaquille Griffin or only signing Hilton? I think you want to retain your guys. That's still the Steelers' MO. I think it's the right approach. And so I would rather retain one of Cam Sutton or Mike Hilton. Hilton, I think I would like to have, if money wasn't an object, Sutton is the more likely option based on the financials of it. But I would rather find the in house guy that you know how he fits into your system as opposed to the out of house guy where you have to figure out exactly how he's going to fit and will it work. Hilton Sutton work. Let's try to retain those guys as opposed to chasing someone not on your roster. That's my approach. All right, a couple more questions here before the stream ends. Someone was asking, I think it was Mike asking, Dave, how did you become a Pens fan? We know you're a Steelers fan, you know your story there, but how did you become a fan of the Pittsburgh Penguins? Was that just kind of a Pittsburgh everything kind of package deal?
Yeah, yeah, basically, yeah.
Hmm.
Technically started off, I guess you could say, a Steelers fan, then immediately gravitated to, and I was like 4 at the time, the Pirates, because of that, and then both of them kind of manifested almost immediately, especially around, I guess, 1978, 1979 was about the time that I think the Penguins changed their uniforms from the old kind of that ice blue, color to they also became black and gold around that same time as well too. And then it really kind of manifested itself. My grandmother would come in. She would live with us half a year. She'd
Mm.
stay in Chicago half a year and then come down and visit us down in Florida and stay with us for half a year. She'd bring hockey cards and all like that, wax packs and all like that, and obviously learn more about players that way. So it was just, and look, I used to watch the Pittsburgh Spirit. Major indoor soccer league on
Mm.
on the old USA Today network. Every time the Penguins would come on the old USA network, especially when they play like the Rangers or the Islanders, you could bet as a kid I was in front of the TV for that as well too. So it became black and gold everything, just by association.
We'll do two more questions here. One from Fred Cam. I love the work you guys do. Thank you, Fred. Personally, I don't believe Juju will be returning to the Steelers because we can't afford him. With that being said, which teams do you guys believe could afford him? I don't have a list of projected cap space for teams right now, but I know the Jets do have a ton of cap space, and they're someone that's probably going to be really aggressive given the new coaching staff and just how sorry their roster is right now. I believe PFF's projection had him going to the Jets, so that's one team that on paper from a financial aspect could definitely afford Juju, and,
Yeah,
And
I don't
Pittsburgh could
know
afford him
exactly.
too potentially, right?
Yep. They could potentially, and once again, if you haven't listened to the podcast this morning, listen to it because a lot of people are going to
Hmm.
be wearing some egg on their face if this cap stays flat at 198.2 million. It won't look. It's still going to be challenging for the Steelers to get cap compliant. No two ways about it. But man, if this cap number ends up coming in closer to 198.2 million versus 175 million, and I already told you two restructures that are going to take place there. It's going to be a lot easier for the Steelers. And look, a first-year cap hit on Juju on a contract in the neighborhood of, let's say, I don't know, $17.5 million average yearly value. You can get that cap hit somewhere between $6.5 to $7.5 million, and we'll see. I don't think it's out of the question. It all obviously depends a lot on where the final NFL cap number
Right.
comes in 2021. So don't entirely rule out the possibility just yet of Juju returning, because it is plausible depending on the cap number.
Some people asking who the OC is. It's not been confirmed yet. The report rumor is that Matt Canada will be promoted, but nothing is official yet. And the last question was a bit of a counterpoint, I think an intelligent one from Dion Johnson, who says, with Big Ben pulling for Juju to come back, getting Canada promoted, etc., shouldn't the Steelers play a little hardball about a pay cut? 19 million minus 16 million to Juju. Played a hardball with Troy, Debo lately. So obviously, we talked about the idea of a pay cut being unlikely, but Dion's saying, well, if the ideas are true that Ben's pulling for Juju to come back and maybe had some sort of influence in Canada getting promoted, although we really don't know that, shouldn't he have to give something to get those things? Is Dion's argument? How do you
Who,
view that?
Ben?
Yeah, Ben. Yeah, Ben.
You're not going to get Ben. I don't see a way that Ben takes a. He's only making $19 million.
Hmm.
In 2021, I just don't see a way where you convince him to not only come back but to take a pay cut. Taking a pay cut is the only way that you're going to let him play. Yeah, I don't. He'll say, "Go ahead and cut me," probably.
You think it sounds like he wants to come back? I don't think they have to convince him to cut back unless he wants to play hardball and say,
No, no,
"I'm not going
I'm
to
not
come back."
saying.
Oh, for Juju
No,
to come
if
back.
they, yeah. Oh, you're talking about, for Juju to come back. You're saying that you would have to, no. Uh, Ben would tell you to figure it out.
Not my job, is what Ben would say. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. But that was the idea, and I get the argument there. But listen, he's Ben. He's your quarterback, and you're not going to ask your quarterback to take a pay cut. It's just not going to happen. Last question, actually, here from Jake Hike. I think it's an interesting one to end on. Who do you think we might surprisingly cut, including veterans? Hayden. I think Hayden is possible, but less likely. I think your two main targets for cap casualties. Vance McDonald's gone. I mean, that just cut and dry unless he wants to take a pay cut all the way to the minimum, which I doubt he wants to do. And Vince Williams, I think, is also going to be on the chopping block given Devin Bush's return, play Robert Spillane, Marcus Allen developing some, and then maybe you re-sign Avery Williamson for a 1-2 year deal for super cheap. Any other veterans you might include on that list, Dave?
What of being cut?
Yeah, any surprise cap casualties? Any surprise veterans that are going to get the axe?
I mean, Eric Ebron. It's hard to cut that production for
Hmm.
for what he costs. I don't think he'll be on the list. I think Joe Hayden is a guy that you could have a conversation about. I'd be more apt to have that conversation about Vince Williams. You know,
Right.
more so than I would Joe Hayden. Once again, $7 million for what Joe Hayden gives you, 4 million versus what Vince Williams gives you.
Hmm.
I'd be more apt to keep the $7 million starting corner than I would the $4 million kind of backup inside linebacker, not every down inside linebacker, if you will. So, other than that, Vance McDonald, you got to take a hard look at that for obvious reasons. Uh, I don't. You could probably have, if Pouncey's not going to retire, you could probably have that conversation potentially. But really, other than that, who else do you have that you'd have the conversation about potentially being a cap casualty?
I'm
It's not going to be Tuitt. It's not
no,
going to be Cameron
no.
Hayward. It's not going to be obviously any of your outside linebackers there. I think we just named them.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably cut Derek Watt. I know you're only saving a tiny bit of money, but I mean, it's a tiny bit of money, and it can help you in this process. But with Hayden, I understand the argument, but let's try to actually like play this scenario out. Let's say you cut Joe Hayden, and I assume that allows you to re-sign, we'll say Cam Sutton, and so Sutton probably replaces Hayden on the outside because you're paying him, and you just cut Joe Hayden. you still have the same issue with the slot and dimebacker and things like that. So I mean, maybe you got a tiny bit better short and long term with Sutton over Hayden, but not by much, if at all. And now you're just kind of in the same place you were before. So it just feels like a lateral move and an unsteelers move to make.
Once again, don't look at the cap number. That's not what the player earns. Look what the player earns. The cap number's not his fault. So you look at Joe Hayden, you look at the salary he's scheduled to earn in 2021. That's $7 million. Okay,
Hmm.
that's all you save with him if you cut him, and then also you're going to have the replacement cost of replacing him too. That eats automatically into that $7 million. So let's say you essentially only save $6 million by cutting him. Is it worth cutting a veteran? Has he declined so much that it's worth cutting him to save that $6 million? And in my opinion, that answer right now is no. It's close, but it's still no, because you'd have to automatically make sure you sign Cameron Sutton. And
Hmm.
then he's going to be your guy. He hasn't proven, he's not played in the league as long as Joe Hayden, that kind of thing either. So there's a lot of assumptions going on there. So I'd be more apt to not only re-sign Sutton, but keep Joe Hayden and then try to make a cut somewhere else.
Yeah, I think there's a path where you can still retain Sutton and Joe Hayden. I don't see it as either or. It may result in the cap casualty of someone else, as you said. Someone said about David DeCastro. Would you cutting David DeCastro as a cap casualty? I'm not even sure what money you save there. But that would obviously open up a spot at right guard as well.
Yeah, and then once again, what you save. I mean, obviously, it's probably easier to find a guard in the draft than anything else. So he's scheduled to earn $8.75 million.
What's the cap
Uh,
savings on that if you cut him? I don't know what the.
that's it,
Oh,
because
that's the
he's only
number.
under con. Right, right, because he's only under contract through
Okay.
2021. Uh, Now, if if DeCastro says, "Look, I'm all in. I want to play 3 more years," then I think what you do is you just give him an extension, and then you lower his cap number that way a little
Hmm.
bit, couple
Okay.
couple couple 3 million that way. Now, uh, who knows? If David DeCastro is kind of a funny bird. He might have Andrew Luck disease right now.
You think? Talking about those
Uh,
Stanford guys?
yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
You kind of parse some of his comments from this last
Yeah,
season. He's got a new baby and
it's true.
all, and I don't know. I don't know how high NFL is on his list right now. And Andrew Luck's a good buddy of his. He's going to lose his other good buddy, more than likely Alejandro Villanueva, this offseason. It'll
Yeah.
be like the Will Smith standing in the middle of the room, turn around, and all your buddies are gone.
True.
So, but if David DeCastro stays, and he's no spring chicken either, he's 31, right? I mean,
Yeah, he's in his 30s.
uh, you know, who knows? Maybe David DeCastro comes to you, say, "That's it, I'm out, man."
Mhm.
And then you say, "I don't think that's going to happen." But look, David DeCastro didn't play David DeCastro like this year.
Mhm.
For whatever reason, maybe we'll find out of some sort of a core muscle injury or whatnot. Uh, Long story short, yeah, it's probably somebody you need to look at, but I think it's one of those things you look at by sitting down with David DeCastro and find out where his head is for the next couple seasons. If he's all in for the next couple seasons, then I sign him to to give him fair market value as close as I can, and extend him to get that cap hit down a couple 3 million, and then go forward that way.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. And then last comment here because it was repeated a couple times, so I'll shout it out here to end things. 4TL Music Group says in all caps, cut Nelson, restructure Hayden, and sign Sutton and Hilton. As we said, you can't restructure Hayden. I do not want to cut
Can't
Steven
restructure
Nelson.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
again, there is the ability to re-sign one of Sutton or Hilton, more likely Sutton, without having to cut either of your quarterbacks. So I think there's a false choice to the idea that you have to cut Joe Hayden in order to keep, say, Cam Sutton. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for today's stream. Went a little bit longer than usual because we had such a good chat here, so appreciate it. We will probably be back for next Monday. As well, Dave and I answering any and all of your skills questions, hopefully for the full hour. Thank you guys for being here, Dave Bryan. As always, thank you for being here.
Thank you for running this. Thank you for everybody else who attended this, and we'll try to keep these going throughout the off season on these Mondays. Yeah, as long as you guys show up, then we'll find a way to carve out 30, 35, 40 minutes for you guys. So peace and love. Peace and love.
Absolutely. All right, guys. This will be archived, so you guys can go back and watch it later if you missed part or all of the stream. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening and asking great questions, and we'll talk to you soon.